Okay, so on our last section, we did the curb and gutter extraction. So what I have here is this is just a limit box. So this is where those two break lines ended from that extraction. So I'm going to show you that there's several different ways to do this. This is just one way and a way that I've used quite a bit, and I'll explain why. So under the home, I just went to my limit box. So I have, I'm able to segment out this area just so we're not looking at a bunch of point cloud. So for me, it starts to drop here. Doing any type of extraction in here can be a little tricky. And I will show you some tools, the Smart Cloud picking tool. But where this, which I call daylight, which is probably the wrong term, but where these two break lines, I'm going to say meet, that's always the tricky part, and especially with point clouds because it's really hard to see a small little bump. And I don't want these break lines to cross. So if you start doing extraction, it's pretty easy because we're dealing with, let's say 1/10 of a foot. It's easy to get those break lines cross, and it's going to screw up your surface. So what I like to do is essentially create kind of a daylight point that the flow line will come into, and then the top of curb will come down and come into that as well. So when I run it straight across, I know that those break lines aren't going to cross. It's essentially the same break line. So, and what I've done in the past, if I'm doing a bunch of extraction, I'll come through and do these points before I do my extraction, so I kind of have a place to easily come back to, or I can just select this break line and continue it down to this daylight point. There's a lot of different ways, and it's just kind of a personal preference. So I think for the idea of this little exercise, I'm going to create basically a point down here. Well, I'll also probably create one up here as well, because we're going to have, it's going to go kind of straight across and then start dropping down. So it's that top point and then this daylight point down here at the bottom. And I'm going to show you the Smart Cloud picking tool. So now I'm in the limit box. I need to get back to our point cloud. I'm sorry, CAD, because all we're doing is we're creating a point. And you can see I have measure codes turned on, and I've created a roadway measure codes category. So the benefit of this measure codes is I have all of my codes right here. So I don't have to type any code in. All I have to do is click the code. And these measure codes, just like in Trimble Access, you can create, direction, so zigzag or up and down a line. So it's just nice to have all of the codes out that I'm going to use. And for this case, it's just roadway. And you see these _1s. I didn't know what was specifically a line and what was a point from the Excel or the CSV that you guys gave me with your codes, description, and layers. So I just put an _1. So basically, like CRBTP _1, that is the line code versus the non-_1. So this is just a point. So if I'm using the _1, I'm actually going to be generating line work. But for this, I believe this is like curb top. So if I did a curb top here, and we can call this whatever we want, and then I'm going to run my line work, just extend my line work through that. So I'm just going to call this, see, it automatically fills in that code, and it should put it on because I have this associated with a particular layer. So it should put that on the correct layer. And just like if you were going to do a topo in the field with a total station or a GPS, you need some type of a point ID, because all we're doing is creating a virtual survey point. And if we exported that virtual survey point as a CSV, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and something that came from your total station or your GPS. So I'll just start this at 1,000. I have a code. And right now, if I select anywhere on my point cloud, it's just going to grab that coordinate. Example. So it just grabs the coordinate. The problem with that is you pick what you pick, and it's hard to tell, like on a break. So so I click the little cloud symbol next to either the northing or the easting, and that brings up this point cloud smart picking tool. And default is just going to grab the coordinate, and then you also have these tools here. And it's going to create a little profile. So like if my drop started there, I'm going to click right there. It's going to pull up a profile view. It's thinking about it. Okay, so here's our profile of that curve. So I selected right there. You can validate by picking it up there or out here. I can't really see. It's going to be somewhere in there. So that's validating where we're going to put that point. So that's just a small little profile view. So you can validate. And then when we add, I might not have that layer on. Let that point go. I might not have the actual layer on. Double check that real quick. Oh, I must have the layer turned off. But that essentially created this point right here. So it's a point ID of 1,000. There's our feature code. Feature, that's the name. I may have screwed up because it should have put it on the correct layer. So that's all it's doing. So if that was that point, it's created, it's just not visible. So that was somewhere in here. If I need a daylight point, this is probably the most difficult part. If I use the Smart Cloud picking tool, there's not enough, it's going to be somewhere down in probably here. There's not enough profile to actually show you. So what it should do is, well, let's see what happens here. It's thinking about it. Okay, so I still do have a little bit of a lip here. Validate that one. Add that. So somewhere down in here, I'm trying here. Okay, so pretty sloped right here. I know it's somewhere in this vicinity. Do I need to use the Smart Cloud picking tool? No, it's just the advantage is it's giving us a small profile. So I'm essentially going to call that my daylight point. And then I need to do, maybe I'll do one more gutter shot in here. So that's going to be, whoops, not a double code. I guess I could have used that double code for daylight point. So gut, change this to gutter, put it somewhere in here. So it's going to give us the same profile view, it's just it's going to be on the gutter instead of the face of the curb. Okay, so there would be kind of the face of the curb. I believe I'm going to move this around here. That looks like a pretty good flow line in there. There's probably some debris in that gutter line. I'm going to add that. So I created 3 points, well, 2 points up here, 1 point in the gutter to bring the line here, and then we're going to go to kind of our daylight point. So I created all the points. Close out of this tool. Get out of my limit box. Let me figure out why. Let's see here. Why aren't those points being displayed? Breakline view? Okay, sorry about that. I had something disabled in the background from a previous demo, so sorry about that. So as you can see, here's my points, just like survey points. I was going to show you. Okay, so the properties of point number 1000, it's on the correct layer, and then we have a northing, easting, and an elevation with the description. So now it'd be really easy to, like if I wanted to extend this line through those points, I can select my line string or my break line. Computer's going very slow for some reason. Line string, and then I can actually edit that line string. So I'm going to go all the way to the end. So this is my last node. And I'm actually going to add a segment. This is going to be a point ID. Go there, go there, and then there. Really don't want those to be smooth curves. Oops. I don't want that to be a smooth curve. Okay. And then, of course, you would extend on from there. And then this line string, do the same thing. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do this. I could have just continued the lines. I'm going to go all the way to the end. This is just an option. There's our node. add well, this one won't matter because it's a straight line. Go there, and then go there. And then, of course, the break line would continue from there. So that's kind of a quick down and dirty way of dealing with these driveway drops. You can do it a lot faster. It depends on how accurate and how precise you're trying to be. So I'll see you back in my next session.